Hello and welcome to This Writing Life. Today we are going to be featuring a special topic because it's November. We're going to be talking about NaNoWriMo. I'm joined today by Melissa. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good. Nano, so I'm really good. That's like the positive, optimistic spin. We'll obviously get into
Yeah,
it. Like,
it's the start of the month.
Great time. Yeah, start of the month. I'm behind, but not that far behind, so it's fine.
Yeah. So today we're going to be chatting a little bit about NaNoWriMo, about the positives and obviously the negatives that it can have for some people, the different ways in which you can get involved, both through the official Nano site and also through some unofficial side channels that have been set up by various organisations and so on. And we'll be talking about how we manage, what strategies we use to help us get through Nano as well. Mm-hmm. So, yes, I'm joined by Melissa today. Thanks for coming on, Melissa. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to lately in your own writing life?
Yeah. So, and then I guess I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing for Nano. So, it's really good timing actually for Nano, and especially getting your head into a new project. So I just handed in my, what are called past pages sometimes, or proof pages, which if people don't know, it's when you publish a book, they basically print out and also send you a PDF of what the book will look like on the page. So how many words each page, how many pages it'll be, which doesn't sound like it would be that different to printing off a Word document, but weirdly it is when it's typeset, as it's called. So I've just handed those in. You can only really check for typos at that point anyway, and I'm starting to get a little bit book blind because I thought I'd got all these typos, and then somebody else read the first chapter and said, "Oh, just so you know, there's a typo on page 4." I was like, "What? There cannot be a typo on page 4." So I've handed them in. I've tried my best, but luckily they also have a professional who is not me reading it. So I've just handed that in. Literally on Halloween, I think I did it. Yeah, I think on Halloween. So that was like perfectly timed for Nano. And the publisher Chicken House have discussed, so they sometimes do this. I handed in 3 pitches in the hopes that they would give me a direction on where to write. So it's not a contract, it's a direction. They really like one of the pitches. So I was able to do that for Nano, which even though it was the last day of October, I did plan a little bit beforehand because I had an indication that was the one they were going for. So yes, really nicely placed. So I have a brand new pitch for Nano that I'm working on, which is still speculative romance type thing. And yeah, that's where I am. How are you, Stuart? What are you up to with writing stuff?
Well, before I go on to mine, I actually want to talk a bit more about you because obviously we chat a lot about what you're up to writing wise and so on. And you've also got your debut coming out next year in spring, which is obviously very exciting. But yeah, it's been interesting getting a bit of behind the scenes from you in terms of what happens during that time. Because I guess like for some people, they might think, okay, your book's coming out, so all your energy's focused on that book that's coming out. But actually, you're probably at the stage now, maybe, where that's almost done and it's out of your hands. And so, in the 6 months or the 5 months, or whatever there is, until you're going to be just working on a totally different thing.
Yeah, it's 6 months out, which feels like a really long time out. I don't know. Like I met up with my editor, Kezia Lupo, and we had dinner the other week. And I was saying to her about marketing meetings, which is something a lot of people talk about. Oh yeah, marketing meeting. And like, what even is a marketing? I don't even understand. Like, it's you're not going to be told. I'm sorry to break it to everyone, but usually as a debut, unless your name rhymes with favoured foliums, you're not going to get like a billboard. So I'm like, what is marketing? So I said, oh yeah, but I don't need to talk about that yet, do I? Because we're ages out. And Kezia said, no, I think you're like, it's quite close now. I was like, really? Because when I worked with a very small publisher, Agora, who sadly had to stop publishing this year, we went to proof printing. So we printed some proofs to send out to people and various newspapers and stuff. And I think we did that in end of July and the book printed in September. So that was just seen as fine. Like, it's a couple months before, and it seems to be a completely different timeline with a larger publisher, which makes sense because there's more wheels in motion, there's more staff and people to talk to. There seems to be a different person like who emails you and says, "Oh, I'm so and so," and they're all lovely. But you're like, "Oh, okay, this is a different person that I haven't met yet." So yeah, it's been really interesting because it feels like it's quite far out, but it's not. So by the time it comes out, I won't remember any of it, obviously. remember any of the story. People will be talking to me about stuff and I'll be like, nope, no idea. I've already had a couple of lovely author friends who've got back to me after reading it and given me quotes. And some of the stuff they've said, I had Ben Oliver get back to me and he mentioned a couple of scenes and said, oh yeah, I really like this scene. I was like, which scene? I'm flicking through my copy.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Oh yeah. Before getting back to him. So yeah, it just feels crazy to be thinking of a different project, but also with how long the timeline is. I signed this contract in 2020 and it's coming out, 2021 and it's coming out 2023. So you have to think of your next contract for money as well. So you have, and also just your career progression and building that head of steam. So you've got to think about the next project really quite a few months before your other one comes out, which seems kind of crazy. But yeah. So that's who I am.
Yeah, I just find it interesting because I guess from the outside, people think you write one book and then it comes out, and then you write the next book and it comes out and so on. Yeah. But because the whole publishing machine takes so long from start to finish, I guess you've got to be already writing or have written the previous, the next book before the previous one comes out.
Yeah, massively. And it's nice to think, I mean, obviously we talk a lot about if you write and that first book doesn't get picked up and that second book doesn't get picked up, and maybe it's your fifth or sixth novel, you do have a backlog of books you can use. But even in that position, you might speak to the publisher and they say, oh, we love the idea of this book, but we really need you to write it from a different person's perspective or something like that. So you're still going to have all this work to do. It's like when you polish a book with your agent and then send it out on submission. You spent months, maybe years on it, and they still will find so many things in edits to make you polish. So, it's never as easy, even if you've already got a great big backlog, which is awesome. If you are a published writer or you're on your fifth or sixth book and you're pre-agented, that's great because then you've got this whole backlog, but it's still some work that needs to be done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know, and it's good for you to say that as well, because a lot of people have a kind of fluffy dream about writing, that it's just a case of, you just show up when inspiration strikes and you put out a few lovely scenes and so on. But it's proper work, and you need to be organised, you need to be motivated, you need to be doing things in advance of when the actual deadlines are. Otherwise, you're going to be doing something that's rushed, and and you haven't been able to give as much time to as you'd like. And it's actually in some ways more than a proper job, because I guess when you're writing as well, you don't switch off. It's not like like if I go to school all day and I teach and so on, I can come home at night and I'm not thinking necessarily about my lessons or blah blah blah, lots of stuff about school, and I just have those 8 hours each day where I work. But as a writer, like it just ticks constantly in your brain, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think this is the problem when you turn a hobby into a job. And I say a problem, it's a very nice, my diamond shoes are too tight problem, don't get me wrong, but it is something that if you're doing it as a hobby or to, make friends, maybe you have like a writing group and you go out and you just tell each other really fun stories. It can be really tough when suddenly it's like, okay, now there's actually a deadline involved. And I have friends who will pump out 1 or 2 books a year, pre-published or pre-agented, no problem. Inspiration's there, absolutely fine. And then once they're in the machine and there's a lot more pressure on, they're actually really struggling to come up with those book ideas suddenly. And it's really funny. So yeah, I think it's just switching. Well, this is why Nano, I think, is quite good. Whether you're published or not, whether you're agented or not, it's really useful because it gives you that discipline because everyone's in the same boat as you, right?
Yeah, and I think and that's it's hard. It's such a simple sort of month, isn't it? Where you just you don't have to think too much about sort of outside external things. You just literally sit down each day and get the word target, and that's what I like about it. Actually, is the simplistic nature of it, and that basically anyone can do it as well. We're not looking for quality. We're just looking for quantity, and it's good practice, I think, for. Well, I know that, for example, you tend to write your first drafts in quite a intense period anyway.
Yeah, I do that anyway.
With the My Love, Life and the Apocalypse, you wrote that, was it in a month or so?
Yeah, it was in a month. Yeah. I always point out to people like it was in summer, so it wasn't during NaNoWriMo, but I also wasn't working. It was during the pandemic. There was nothing else to do. So like that is why it was easier than normal to do it in a summer month. But that took about a month. But that doesn't mean I think I first came up with the idea in February in a class with Write Mentor with Alexandra Shepherd. So I was thinking about it from February to about June, July. Then I wrote it, I think between June and July, like over that 4 or 5 week period. Then I sent the draft to my agent. So to be fair, I was thinking about it quite a lot. It was really well planned. So it wasn't like I was sitting down at my desk like, I wonder what happens next. Like that wasn't happening. So it makes it easier.
And I do think that's like the key to writing fast is being planned, because so like Nano, I mean, maybe people will disagree with me on this, but I think Nano, if you don't plan and have some sort of outline or idea before you go, it can turn into just this absolute mess of 50k words, with no real guidance. And then you'll probably end up having to chop either most or all of it. And it becomes a bit of a fruitless exercise if you do that. Whereas, as you say, if you just put a wee bit of time and thought into planning, then at least, even if it's a bit of a hot mess, at least it has the core of your planned out story at the centre of it, and you can then start refining it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that if you turn up on day one with no plan, I've done it, and I finished NaNoWriMo once. Think in like 2017, 2018, and I did it, and it was 50,000 words. I did not get to the end at 50,000 words, because actually 50,000 words, if you're a kid lit writer and you're writing middle grade, that's actually kind of mid to long. If you're writing YA, that's quite short. If you're writing an adult, that's very short. I think actually most book awards say it's a novella if it's under 50k, and that's why they chose it. And you can obviously split it up, and it's like manageable each day. So I always think like if you write a first draft, you can always add to it later. So that's why I'm saying 50,000 words. But I think if you just turn up on day one and you just write, you won't get to the end at the end, because I did not. I just wrote 50,000 words. It was awful. It had like dragons, but also like the FBI, like some sort of portal element. And there was a maze at one point. And then I read back a bit the other day, and I think there's some rune magic that disappears at about chapter 5. I don't know what was happening, but it was really fun. And it was good to know that I could get that many words down, but I would not do it that way again. It's not me.
That's good. That's possibly the most important lesson actually of the whole process, is just learning that discipline of just sitting and doing the words, regardless of whether you feel like it each day or whether life gets in the way, because that's what happens all year round. And if you can sit and do it during the month of November, then there's no reason why you can't translate that to other times in the year as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think it's good from that point of view. Now, actually, I'm sorry, I've just realised I forgot to talk a little bit about Moan writing earlier on. I was too keen to
you too quickly swerved away from that, I noticed.
Yeah, and I just noticed there on my wee list that that was something we hadn't covered yet. So just to very briefly fill you in, so I haven't actually started Nano yet, because I'm just finishing off. I'm just finishing off the latest edits on my book, and I was lucky enough that I think it was 2 weeks ago I asked some people from the Write Mentor Hub if anyone fancied beta reading the book, and I was really lucky that quite a few people did. So I've got I think it's 8 sets of feedback from various people. And I just said, like, just brief notes, any sort of big issues you see, blah, blah. And yes, the majority of them have written me short essays on the book. So
hoisted by your own petard there.
Yeah, exactly. Which is great though. It's so kind of them, obviously, to spend as much time and give me the notes and so on. But obviously, it's now taking me longer to do the editing than I had proposed, and so my Nano project is yet to start, unfortunately. So, but I think obviously the editing for this book's got to take priority. Because that's actually got a deadline.
And various things always take priority. But the good thing is with Nano, you can catch up, which we'll talk about, obviously. It is possible to get the other good thing, and you can take that with life. Sometimes you say you're going to start, eating healthier, or you're going to quit this or whatever, and you think, oh, I've effed up the first 3 days, so I now can't do it. But actually, you can always catch up. You can definitely always catch up, and it's the same with Nano. You can get something down.
No, I completely agree, and it's one of those things that one day of not writing does not undo all the other days of writing.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And a lot of people they have, and I'm bad for this as well. A lot of people have that. If you mess up once, that's totally spoils whatever you're doing. So if it's a diet, for example, sometimes people feel like if they have a cheeky McDonald's in the middle of their diet, that suddenly the whole diet is ruined and they're going to suddenly put on loads of weight and stuff again. You just reset after that and then and start again and continue like you were before. And Nano, I think in terms of word counts, is a bit like that. You just okay, you missed a day. Let's just forget about that. Go back to tomorrow. Still actually just stick with the same goal. Don't suddenly, and this is a mistake people make, they think, oh, I've missed a couple of days, so therefore my daily word count must increase to compensate. Don't do that, because actually you're struggling to stick to 1,667 words a day. So why would you then, when you're struggling to already do that, then add more words that you have to do each day?
Yep.
If anything, you should be actually reducing it and maybe saying, okay, I'm struggling with that, so let's go down to 1,000 or 500. And actually, 500 a day is better than setting yourself 2,000 a day and not doing them.
Yeah, it's better than zero. Anything's better than zero. So.
Yeah, and that's a good tip, actually, if you are doing it and you miss a day or two, just don't panic and think, okay, I now need to do more to catch up on that, because
you'll burn yourself out.
Exactly, yeah. And talking about the pandemic, actually, you said that there was nothing to do. Back in 2020, I did what was it, 50 kilometres of cycling every day for 100 days. Yeah. It was for charity. And I remember I missed a few days, just various things happening. I got sick and stuff. And what I tried to do initially was to add 10 kilometres each day so that I would make up for the days that I missed. But honestly, it got to the point where, because I've missed enough days, I was trying to do like 75 kilometres a day. And I was already finding 50 kilometres a day really, really difficult. And I eventually had to have a word with myself and just say, well, actually, it's better that you add a few days onto the end. Yeah. And you just make the challenge a wee bit longer. And and you basically replace the days you missed with days at the end, than trying to do more in each day. And you're right, you're going to exhaust yourself, you're going to burn out, you're not going to be able to sustain that. So that is, I think that's good, healthy advice for Nano. If you miss a few days, just add some days into December. There's
absolutely.
Nobody's going to come around chasing you with a clipboard and giving you into trouble for not doing all your words exactly in the dates in November.
Yeah, exactly. Apart from me, I did the accountability thing of telling my agent and publisher, like, I'm going to do NaNoWriMo. And they were like, great. Okay. So we're assuming like December, you're going to have a good chunk. I'm like, yeah, sure, man. Which of course on day 4, when I missed a day yesterday because I was sick, I'm thinking, oh no, mistakes were made. But actually it is a good level of, they aren't actually going to, it's not like a teacher. They're not going to yell at me if it's not there on December 1st, a full polished book, because obviously that's never going to happen. However, it's a good little motivator. And I think even if you have to add a few days after, it's good to try and get in November when you've got people around you, even if they're online, people around you doing it, so absolutely you can add a few days. December, a lot of people use it for editing anyway. So
so let's talk just very briefly then about the advantages and the disadvantages of Nano. How does it help writers? But then on the flip side, what are the drawbacks to it? So we'll start with how does it help writers, in your opinion?
Yeah. So I like that all writers, whether you are published with 10 books or whether you are self-published or whether you're pre-agented or whether it's your first ever book, everyone's in the same boat on the 1st of November. And I really like that. And it's the great leveler, because sometimes when you're moving up, I know I was agented for 5 years before I got my first traditional deal, like with an advance. And sometimes it can feel like when you've moved like that step up, you kind of get out of like the pool of all your friends that are querying, and then you go into the next pool and you can feel a little bit out of your depth. It's like fish jumping up the pond kind of thing. Whereas what I quite like about Nano is like we do stuff on the hub, and it's great because we have published authors in there, we have pre-agented authors in there, we have like everything in between, we have self-published authors, and it's awesome because we're all in the exact same boat. So I think that's a really big positive that I like about it, is that it feels like everybody has to do the same thing, and it's the great leveler.
Yeah. And you touched there as well on community, didn't you? And how it's a great accountability tool, especially if you involve yourself with other people. And obviously accountability can be self-led. And I know that Nano have their own word count tool on their website if you sign up. And you can sort of input your words each day, and it gives you a wee graph, doesn't it? And it shows you how you're progressing against what you should be and so on. And that's good. But I think that for me anyway, for people like me, I kind of need people to be accountable to. Yeah. If that makes sense, rather than just being accountable to myself. And I do like that community aspect of it. And that's obviously something we've set up through the Write Mentor Hub.
Yeah. Yeah, which is really fun because we're it's funny actually. I went out with my critique group who are all writing adult books, like really easy writing, yesterday, and it was really nice to see them. And they were asking me about Nano, and they were asking about the hub because they're not kidlit writers, so they're not in the hub.
Yeah,
and they said, how's it work if you're in a team? And I said, what I like about the team element that we've done. So the 4 of us all have a team: me, you, Florian, and Emily. Is that even if you've only got 100 words that day, even if you're really tired, or maybe you have a disability, which means that you can't stay at your computer for long periods, or maybe you're just really busy with your kids or work, you still feel like you're adding to the team total. Like it's worth putting those 100 words in. So even if you may feel like if you were just on your own, you might think, what's the point? 100 words. It's going to take me 1,000 days to write the book. It doesn't matter because you're still helping your team out, and people will come and cheer for you and be like, yeah, you just tipped us over like this particular edge, or you just got us ahead a little bit. So that's what I like about the team element, which is it's not really competitive. We're a bit silly with it. It's just more like it's like a cooperative sort of team effort, which is fun.
Yeah, and I think that is important. I know from my days, I used to play rugby with a team, obviously, and there's something about that, about, you might show up one day and you're just not feeling 100%, or, you don't feel like you've played particularly well in the game so far, but you continue to work hard and to contribute as much as you can, because you know that what you're doing is for a bigger cause than just yourself as well. And I think that's what the team thing definitely adds to that. And I know that I'm already feeling guilty that I haven't added any words yet for my team. And so... But the good thing is that will sort of spur me on to finish my edits, hopefully this weekend, and then get on with adding words, from Monday onwards. Yeah,
it's like a low-level guilt. So I sometimes feel bad if I haven't added. However, the hub is so friendly. Nobody actually is going to be mad at you if you haven't added to the word count, but they'll be so happy if you do. But it's the perfect amount of low-level guilt to get me to do it.
Yeah.
Without being stressful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, so I think being involved in that, and I know that there are lots of little like Facebook communities and so on that you can join if you want to be, get accountability, being part of that sort of group mentality for Nano. So that is a big positive. And the key thing is as well that you chat to people that maybe you wouldn't normally chat to, or that you don't regularly chat to. And that's a big plus as well.
It's really nice to meet you, but like over on the hub, got to give a shout out to Estelle Tudor, who publishes under AG Tudor, her self-publishers, and she is an absolute machine. And she's I think she's hit 5K the first 3 days. Haven't started yet today. We're on the 4th when we're recording this, and it's in the morning. And she's in my team. I randomly allocated numbers, and she was in my team, and I was like, yes. I have Estelle in my team. Not that we're all riding on Estelle's coattails, but we're sort of at the minute riding on Estelle's coattails. But she's so disciplined, and I don't often chat with her because she's a high fantasy writer. I don't write a lot of fantasy, but it's really nice because we're on the same team and also seeing how her process works, because it's completely different to mine. And she has like these fantasy series that she writes, and it's really interesting. And it kind of spurs you on to do your thing, because you see how much someone else is enjoying their thing. I'm thinking, wow, Estelle must be loving her story. If she's writing 5K a day, that's really exciting. I want to enjoy my story that much. So I actually went back to my plan and wrote in some more fun elements, because I was thinking, I want to be like Estelle, pumping out 5K, because I'm so excited to get to that story. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And you find as well, like when you're having fun writing, that does come across in the page, and your reader gets the reward for that fun as well. Yeah. It's not all just self-indulgence.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's a really good way to, it doesn't matter. Obviously, we're all at different stages. I literally wrote 0 words yesterday. So, no shade on anyone in my team that's writing less than 5K a day, which is everyone. So it's absolutely fine. But it's just really nice to see how differently people do things. And when people have obviously had a good day and written a bit more, because we make ourselves accountable by putting it on a big spreadsheet. So it is fun to see other people, because sometimes writing, it can be so lonely. And you're doing it on your own, and you think, how do people do this? And word count, it's a really strange one, because we are not mathematicians, which we learned when we were all trying to, on the Write Mental Hub, you can set any goal, not just 50,000 words. And so we were trying to do the maths around percentages, hitting plot beats. And yeah, that was a fun day in doing maths. We're not really mathematicians, so sometimes word counts can seem a bit of a scary thing, because it's sort of a number going up and up. But actually, it's quite fun when you do it that way.
Yeah. So there's some of the positives. Obviously, the discipline, the accountability, the goal setting, the community. So that it sounds like there's a lot going for it. But can you think of anything where NaNoWriMo might, for example, seem a bit daunting, or where it might seem a bit intimidating for people, or where, if people sign up for it, they might actually, it might be an adverse thing as a result of it? Can you think of any scenarios like that?
Well, what's interesting is when I said I was doing it on the hub, I've got a couple of groups of kidlit writers that are published and obviously working on future projects for their publishers. And the interesting thing is most published writers I know, well, from my small sample I took of maybe 20, 30 writers, and don't do Nano. They don't do it. And so you might think, oh yeah, you're a published writer, you're like a really good writer and you write every day, you always write 3,000 words, just like Stephen King. And it's like, well, no, actually, quite a lot of people don't do that, which kind of surprised me, because I just assumed it was maybe something, because it is such an interesting tool to get the book written. When I was talking to them about why do you think it is that you're not going to be doing Nano? I think time of year comes in. November is right before Christmas, and it's just after half term if you're a parent. And I think sometimes it can be quite tough November to get things done. I think actually maybe there are other months that might be easier to do. I know, for instance, they do a camp Nano now, which is basically the same thing, but you can set any goal you want on the website in April to try and provide a different time of year. Like, for instance, we've got people in the hub in New Zealand and Australia, and obviously lead up to Christmas is their summer holidays. So that is not useful when you are trying to wrangle children and do your writing. So I think time of year can be a bit of a con, but you can get around it. And I also think sometimes, just when I was talking to people, the stress of, it's like we were saying about good levels of guilt and stress, which sounds a really weird thing to say, but everyone knows what I mean. It's good to be accountable, but it's not good to be stressed about it. And it's making sure sometimes when you first start out with Nano, you don't know your goals. So as you say, you might say, I'm going to do 1,667 every day. And then you're actually struggling to write 500. And it's know your own limits and lower it if you need to lower it. But that can be quite stressful. And I do understand that would put people off.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely intimidating if you are. So you and I, for example, we've written a lot of novels, over the last 10 years or so. We've got a bit of experience. We know that we have got it in us to write that number of words. Yeah. But I guess if you're a newer writer and you've never written something of that length, it can feel like overwhelming and daunting to think that you have to. You have to do that. And I think your point was spot on when you said about knowing your own limits and knowing how much you're capable of each day. And it's okay. So, for example, in the hub, we let people set their own monthly word count. So it doesn't have to be 50,000. People can set 10,000 or 15,000 or whatever works for them. And then that way you can have a more realistic daily word count in order to meet that.
Yeah, and it's not getting, so the comparison can sometimes be really helpful, like I was talking about, say, Estelle. Now, Estelle has set quite a high goal for Nano, which other people might be like, oh my gosh, how could you ever write that many words? But that's because that's how she enjoys writing. And it's that thing, again, of everybody's different how they write. Yeah. So it's not worrying too much. For instance, if you're a chapter book writer, you're not going to be writing 50,000 words anyway. So, and that's absolutely fine. And that's still a book that is on shelves in Waterstones right next to 1,000-word novels by Stephen King. Like, they are the same. They probably won't be next to each other because that would be a very strange filing system. But you see the point that I'm saying is that you have different lengths of books, and they are still books that can get publishing deals if that's what you're going for, and they are still valid pieces of writing. So the really good thing about being, especially kidlit community, because obviously NaNoWriMo is not just for kidlit, it's also for adult novels. But I think the really nice thing is everyone's so friendly. Like in our hub, everyone's so friendly and nice that it really is like you do cheerlead for the people who write 100 words as well as the people who write 5,000 words. It's just like, yes, you did it. Like, you're on the team and you added to the sheet. So that's quite nice. So I think, knowing your limitations and not being worried or embarrassed or comparing yourself, which obviously is constantly the writing thing, whether you're published or not. So.
Yeah, we can't get enough of that old comparison and imposter syndrome over here.
Love to punish ourselves.
It's like the Taylor Swift song, isn't it?
I was thinking that. It's like it's just like Anti-Hero, which we won't quote in case Taylor Swift's listening and sues us.
I will not sing because you do not want to hear that. But I'm sure you've all heard it.
Yes, but we all do definitely would rather look into the sun than in the mirror, because we are just bonkers. But that's fine.
Yeah.
We can look into each other's mirrors, it's fine.
It's interesting, actually, because that was a good point you brought up there about chapter book writers, and obviously picture book writers, where I don't think Nano is particularly applicable for them. And it might be something that's, I don't know, it might be something we do, or that a bigger organisation looks to do like Nano, where they have something for those who are writing picture books and so on. Like, I don't know, you write 5 picture books a month, or...
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, because I find picture book, I always say this, I think I've said it on this podcast before, I just think it's such an incredible skill, because I just talk and talk. Why do you think Stuart invites me on here every week, guys? I just talk and talk and talk. I can't shut up, so I don't understand how people do it in like 400 to 600 words or whatever it is. Like, I find it fascinating. I can't write a short story to save my life, never mind a picture book. So there must be something you could do. And obviously, I guess maybe... illustrators might want to do something as well, or there could be like fun tasks you could do with illustrators as well. So yeah, there must be something you could do.
Yeah, I think for illustrators, I saw something last month called Inktober.
Yes, that is a thing. And you draw something every day, and I think there's prompts. Yeah,
which looks really good. I obviously would have no place in the illustrator community as someone.
No, same.
Honestly, it's so bad. Like, so I've got this. So that's my daughter's work.
That's really... I was going to say, I don't know why you're showing this because it's quite good. Oh, but it's Eva. Okay.
yeah, it's Eva, yeah. But I would struggle to do this. Just in case you're listening to the podcast, I've got a picture of Pikachu here that my daughter drew.
It's really good.
Yeah, I couldn't even do that. Nope. She's 7. And she's already surpassed me, so...
No, I'm exactly the same. It's every time there's anything to do with anything visual that the marketing team are talking to me about with the book or the cover or anything. No, I really suck at even imagining what could possibly, go on there. And they're really good. My publisher, Chicken House, they got me really involved with the cover. But yeah, no, I couldn't. I'm so bad at like any visual sort of stuff.
Yeah. So what is just let's finish off on a bit more of a personal note. So what is your goal for this month? Are you going for the 50k?
Yeah. So I've set 50k. It's funny actually, I don't usually. So when I wrote My Love Life and the Apocalypse, that was, I think the first draft was 70 something k. I always set really specific. I go through Save the Cat. I usually do 3,000 word chapters, and I do 25 chapters, and that's quite neatly 75,000. And then I usually go over on a few of the chapters, and it ends up being sort of near at 80. And that's my usual, but I decided to do 50. Number one, I wanted to show people in the hub, you can do 50. So I've definitely got to hit it now because there's pressure, but good pressure. And also, it feels the achievable thing. Obviously, Nano has set it up as 50. 1,600. It's really not that bad, especially if you know what you're writing and how quickly we actually type and stuff. You'd be amazed if you just went through all of your DMs you sent in a day. I bet you probably write about 4,000 words of DMs. It's really not that bad. And I'm not a terrible typer. I'm not a touch typer, but I can type about that. And also, it fits quite nicely into the maths. So we were talking about the maths. It's actually quite neatly, if you do 50,000 words and you follow Save the Cat, you quite neatly have the plot beats at the end / beginning of each chapter to give you those cliffhangers, which helps you come up with the ideas for the story. So yes, I'm doing specifically 50. I think I sometimes overwrite. So if some of the chapters are a bit long, so they're going to be 2,500. And what's quite nice again is that every time I hit a chapter, because I'm doing 20 chapters, it's 5% done. And that's another thing. Percentages, I think, are really helpful. Feeling like there's not too much left, so it's a bit less daunting doing it that way. So so that's what I'm doing at the minute. Is 50,000. Are you're doing 50,000? I think so.
I think so. Yeah, that's the aim. Yeah, as I say, I've missed the first few days because I've been doing something else, but I'll just add that on, and and obviously it doesn't count towards our competition because that would be fair. But I'll add it on for me personally.
Very serious competition.
So I'll add it on for me personally at the end though and just do it. I'm doing a middle grade again, and I thought a middle grade was best to do for this because 50k is a good word count for a middle grade, so it should fit in quite nicely.
It's really neat for a middle grade. Yeah, I think I did okay this with my agent before starting, and she said she actually thought 50k was quite good, even in YA for a bones. I don't know if people are interested in this, and obviously never chase trends and write the book you need to write, and it needs to be as long as you need it to be. But I will say, for instance, publishers at the minute are less keen on picking up tomes, really long novels, fairly, two pretty big reasons, but there's many, many different reasons. Kids are a little bit intimidated by longer books, and paper costs to be honest. Paper's expensive. So, if you can keep it concise and then just add the bits that need to be there. I'd always personally, when I'm editing, would rather add and have fun adding a really fun scene between two characters that maybe haven't spoken much yet than cut. I think it's more fun to add. So I'm quite happy doing more of a bare bones story and then maybe adding to it later.
Yeah, no, I'm in exactly the same camp. I'm much rather like add a scene and write more than have to cut stuff. I'm terrible. Like I literally need someone to hold my hand and say, you need to cut this section. And sometimes actually I need them to actually do the cut. Like I literally, I don't know why I've got this weird thing that, excuse me, the way I struggle to cut it.
Yeah, so, it is really hard cutting. So I'd always rather, once I've sat on it for a bit, be told, oh, we'd love to hear more about this character. Please add more. That's always much more fun than cutting. Yeah. And I think you had to do some of that, didn't you, with in your most recent editing with the My Love Life and Apocalypse? Yeah, you had to add in a few details. Yeah, I did. So even though that ended up, so like I say, first draft was like, I think 79,000 or something, maybe even 77. And then it grew a bit with Lucy when we were editing, my agent, and then it went out, and then obviously it grew a bit more. So I think it ended up at one point it was like 95,000-ish, but it's ended up at the 89,000 mark. So it did good. At one point, and Kezia Lupo is an excellent editor, and she was just like, I think we can cut these 3,000 words. And I was like, you can't just cut a whole chunk of 3,000 words. And then, of course, I clicked on the thing on Word where it takes away, so it doesn't show you what they've cut. And I read it and thought, oh, actually, no, you can totally cut. We don't need any of that. You're actually totally right.
And that was my point earlier on. Sometimes if someone else just physically takes the words out, you realise that, oh, actually, it's okay.
I didn't even remember what I wrote in that.
I know, we do get precious about our words, and we say, oh no, the story could possibly work without that.
Exactly.
It absolutely could, yeah. And it's interesting you said there about word count as well, because with Ghost of Mars, I've gone from what I thought was a reasonably finished draft of 55,000, and over the last basically month to 6 weeks, I've added 10,000 words to it.
Whoa,
so it's currently sitting at just under 65k. So
okay.
So it's just where people said, we need a bit more like the world building. We need a bit more of what it's like to live on Mars. We need to know a bit more about the background of this thing and so on. And as soon as you start doing that, just even adding little bits here and there, it totally pushes up the word count. So,
but that's what the story needs. So that's absolutely fine. I know we talk about arbitrary word counts for things, and it is important to keep in mind-ish. But if it serves a story, then you've got to put it in.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Okay, so that is the end of our episode discussing NaNoWriMo. We'll probably be back again for another episode towards the end of the month, and we can maybe see how people have got on and discuss how it's gone for people.
See if we're panicking.
Yeah, exactly. See if we managed to get anywhere near our targets. But for those of you who are taking part this month, we wish you best of luck with it. We hope you can stay on your targets. But remember, if you miss out a few days, don't sweat it, please, and just do as much as you're able. Yeah,
don't get stressed. That's the important bit. And still have fun. It's a fun thing.
Yeah, it should be fun.
It's supposed to be fun.
I agree. So have fun with it, and best of luck to everyone. See you next time.
Bye.